right. Welcome everyone to Rev Up. We remember this week, just a heads up before I forget, we have class today. We have nothing on tomorrow because it's the team, it's the office huddle, which is taking place, I believe, at the association tomorrow. And then I think that's where it is. And then on Thursday, we'll have class at 4 o'clock. I do not know what we're covering on Thursday at 4 o'clock, but I'm sure it'll be fun and amazing. So today we're diving into agent financials, super important, and also time blocking. So when I set up this series this month, the month of March, is kind of setting you up for success in your business. So does anybody have any questions before we jump into our material today?
No,
not really.
and I'm not going to speak unless I necessarily need to.
Perfect. All right. So agent financials. The important thing to remember when it comes to being a realtor or real estate agent is that you are a business owner. And most people don't think of it that way. They feel like they're working for a broker, they're going to make some money, and they are going to, just kind of run along and get everything done. But you need to run it like a business. And the sooner that you can start thinking that way and start running it that way, the better. So we do have a model for this. And I am going to show you guys some tools. So the number one thing is that you need to have separate accounts. Okay. You need to have an account that you use for your business expenses and that you put your business income in. And then you have your personal accounts. And it doesn't have to be like a paid business account at your financial institution. Okay. It doesn't have to be super complicated. You can just go down there and open up an additional checking or savings account or one of each for your business and then run all of your expenses and all of your income out of that. So what does that look like? You have a closing, and then you decide that out of that closing, you're going to take however much out and use it for your day-to-day expense and activities, right? We're not going to take those day-to-day expense and activities out of our business account. We're going to transfer those funds into our personal account and then use that money once it's in our personal account for personal expenses. All of your business-related expenses will come out of your business account. I actually highly recommend having 2 savings accounts and a checking account for your business. The reason I recommend that is that you should have a savings account for your business. You should also have a tax savings account. So out of every closing, because remember, we are 1099, we are independent contractors, we are business owners. They are not going to take taxes out of our checks, which means that at the beginning of the year, when you go to file your taxes, you're probably going to owe some money. Please set aside money in a special account that you don't touch for that purpose. I highly recommend setting aside somewhere between 25 and 30% until you have a couple years under your belt and you kind of know what tax bracket you're going to fall into. Make sure to set that aside. So, if you have a $10,000 check that comes in, you are going to take 2,500 of it and put it into, or 3,000 of it and put it into a savings account specifically set aside for taxes. In addition to that, like I always run all of my commission checks into my savings account, and then I transfer the money out I need for my monthly expenses out of that savings account so that all that money is not sitting in my checking account, staring at me, asking to be spent. So you may be wondering, well, Amy, what's an appropriate amount? Well, number one, whatever you decide you're going to live off of, that's totally fine. I do recommend that you keep money set aside for your business expenses. So think about, what do I have closing in the next month? What do I have closing in the next 2 months? What do I have in my pipeline for the next 3 months? What are my expenses going to be? Do I have the association fees coming up? Do I have my Barry's quarterly fees coming up? Do I have my super lockbox expenses coming out? Am I doing a farm and I have budgeted $150 for flyers on a monthly basis? What do you have coming up and what needs to stay in that account for business expenses? Okay. Super important to try to think about that and put a budget together for that. Now, we have a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Okay. Yes, it was written by Gary Keller, who is KW. No, it is not a Keller Williams book. It is like the real estate Bible. So this one's a special one. It's got all these little tabs, which make it super easy to find. Let's see if I can get the tabs to show what I'm looking for in this book. but it's basically like your roadmap to starting your own real estate business. And really, most of these principles apply to everything. So it's got all of the different models, like your lead gen models and your budget models and your organization models, right? How do we grow? How do we lead gen? Where do we spend our time on? What kind of interactions do we do, right? So when you hear me talking about, like when we covered the database last week and we talk about what kind of interactions, systematic interactions you should have with your database, it's mostly coming out of this book, okay? Because this book is a guide. They went and talked to agents that were netting $1 million in real estate, right? Not grossing, but netting $1 million in real estate, and asked them what they did, figured out what their organization looks like, figured out what their models look like, figured out what they were spending money on. And then they put together this book. So in this book, there is our budget model. Okay. I will share my screen. Oh, I do have that one. Hold on. Let me find it. I have a picture of that somewhere. Oh, give me 2 seconds. All right, we have a budget model. I'm going to share my screen if I find the little button for that. Desktop 1.
Amy, somebody's asking the book name and the author again.
Oh, so it is the MREA, or the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's by Gary Keller and Dave Jinks and Jay Papasan are the authors on it, but the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. If you can find this version of it, it's way better. And don't try to do Millionaire Real Estate Agent, the MREA, on Audible. It doesn't work. There's too many charts and graphs and pictures and images and things in here, illustrations, to make it work on Audible. So that's my recommendation. And then this one is I think it's the leadership version, but it could have a different name to it. But I think it's like the leadership version, the one that has the tabbies on it. So I like the tabbies. All right. So on your screen, sorry, I'm going to open back up the chat box because when I share my screen, it takes away everything that I have set up. So on my screen, you're going to see the MREA budget model, which breaks down by income level, right? This is important, by income level, where your money should be spent. Okay, so if you look across the top column here, it's got GCI, that's your gross commission income. So that is off of closing. If I'm representing a buyer, the buyer's agent's offering 2.5%. And it's going to equate to this much money. And so by the end of the year, I will have made this much income in gross commission income. That's before you pay a fee to your company. That's before you pay your transaction coordinator. That's before you pay for pictures, everything. That is the gross commission offered on that listing or that buyer, right? So a buyer is really easy because it offers in the MLS. And our listings is, we're going to look at our listing agreement and say, well, we agreed to take 6%. We offered 2.5% to the other agent. So I'm making 3.5%. What is 3.5%? So it's before any of your expenses. That is your gross commission income. So you're going to figure out, where do I sit, right? And each year you're going to change a little bit. So we're probably going to let's look at this first column, which is the $150,000 column, right? Our gross commission income at $150,000. The first line here, the COS spells for, I know I need to get my curtains installed, Anastasia, to get rid of the funky glare. I apologize. Let's see if I can scoot this way a little bit. Anyways, so COS stands for cost of sales. Those would be the things that we only have to pay if the closing happens. Okay, so our sign installer for a real estate sign or for sale sign, do we have to pay the sign installer whether we have a closing or not? You can put it in the chat box. Yes. Thank you for your interaction. I appreciate that. Yes, we have to pay a sign installer whether it closes or not. So that's not a cost of sale. Do we pay our transaction coordinator if it doesn't close?
No.
No. So cost of sale would be a transaction coordinator. Okay. So it's usually things that come out of your commission demand. So the fee to the office, your transaction coordination fee, something that you would pay out of the demand that only has to get paid if there is a closing. That would be your COS or your cost of sales. At 150,000, your cost of sales for the year should range right in the 13% range. Okay. Which gives us our gross profit number. So we have our cost of sale minus our gross commission income minus our cost of sale equals our gross profit. Okay. So gross profit's different than gross commission income because we've taken out our cost of sales. So our gross profit should range at about 87% of our gross commission income. From that, we're going to take out our expenses. Okay, those are business-related expenses. That sign guy, that's not a cost of sale, he is an expense. Our Barry's dues, our Super E-Key dues, our office dues, our photography, our marketing, our flyers, all of that stuff is part of our expenses. Okay, and that we should keep at about 38%. Okay, of our gross profit, we're going to have 38% that's going to give us our expenses, which leaves us with our net income. Well, we have, so that's going to be 38% of the total gross commission income, the GCI, which leaves us at a net income right around 49%. Okay, net income around 49%. Okay, and if you're like, Amy, I appreciate that you gave me a number for expenses, but what does that break down to? Well, we can break it down further. Okay, salaries and benefits should range at about 5.6%. Professional services are going to range at 2.2%. That's going to be about 7.8%. Our lead generation our budget should look something around 7.8% for general prospecting and marketing, 3.4% for listing management, for a total expense of our lead generation of 11.2%. Okay. In addition, from that, we have, let's see if I can look at this. I can blow it up. Imagine that. In addition, we have our occupancy at 2.9%. So occupancy would be like if you rent an office space or a desk space. We have our education and coaching should be at about 5%. And this would include things like going to summits, right? That would be considered education and coaching because you're learning how to grow and add to your business, right? Supplies and office expenses around 2.7% for the year. Your communication and technology about 3.7%. That would include things like your cell phone, things like that under communication and technology. Your automobile should be around 3%. Now, keep in mind that if you have a vehicle you use for business expenses, and please talk to your tax professional, don't take my word for it because I'm not a tax professional, things like your interest on your automobile or your registration fees, those type of things can be counted towards your business, your payments as well. And then also you'll have the option of either taking your actual expenses for your automobile or a mileage expense. So that's where that kind of fits in with the automobile as well, because you can, the federal government assigns a value per mile for business miles driven. Anastasia had a question about mileage. So before I ask you what your question is, I highly recommend, there's lots of different ways to track your mileage, in my opinion. Although I haven't looked at them recently, the best one that I like to use is Mile IQ. And usually I say, hey, don't pay for anything. Go with freebie. I've tried lots of freebie mileage apps. Mile IQ is the cream of the crop. It's like $60 a year. Well worth, $5 a month, I think is what it equates out to. For that app, it automatically tracks every single drive that you do. You log in at the end of the day, you swipe one way for business, one way for personal. And then like if you have a listing, it will detect that, hey, you've driven there multiple times. Would you like to log every trip going to that property as a business, or every trip going to that address as a business expense? You can hit yes. And now every time you go to that, it'll just automatically log it as business. It's super handy because I don't have to remember to get in the car and like hit track mileage. It just automatically tracks everything for me. Anastasia, what's your question?
So do you count from the moment you leave your house to go to the showings, and then from the last showing back to your house was my question.
I would highly recommend confirming with your tax professional what you should do. But yes, I do track from the house to the showing and back to the house.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And if I don't go back to the house after the showing, or I don't leave from my house, then I just do it from whatever the last location was that I was at to the showing, and whatever I went to after the showing that was not business related.
You're an angel. Thank you.
I'm
Hey,
an
Amy,
angel. Yes.
I did ask the tax person about that, and they said that just a little side information, contact your tax professional. But what my tax professional said was that they're getting a little bit more stringent. So you actually have to put the client's full name. Like you have to have more details than just I showed a property. Like it needs to be like Heather Garcia, buyer for this address.
Yes.
Like you have to like put a lot of, it has to be detailed out if you get audited. They don't need it. She
Yeah.
said, I don't need it, but if you get audited, that it will not fly if you don't have details. So just
Yes.
a little heads up to people.
Thank you for that. Yes, you do need details to go along with that. Your calendar works for that detail, just so you know. So if you schedule calendar appointments in for
Yeah.
showings, copy and paste the addresses that you're going to go to, or listing appointments or whatever, that does count. So you can take your mileage record and back it up with your calendar. Totally appropriate. That works. And you do definitely need that. You can't just say, oh, I drove 200 miles last month for business and hope that it'll fly. You have to have something if you were to get audited to back it up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good reminder. Okay. Automobile, your equipment and furnishings, right? That would be things like your computer, your phone, you bought a couch for your office or a desk, whatever that might be. Keep in mind too that on that occupancy, you can potentially utilize a home office and some home office expenses. Okay, again, talk with your tax professional on that. And then your insurance costs. So those are kind of where you're going to fall with expenses. If you want a more broken out plan for that, Avi will share, there's a folder inside the Rev Up folder, Avi, called Agent Financials, and it has the MREA chart of accounts, which I'll show you here in a second, and then instructions so that you can take those and upload it into QuickBooks for business. Okay, it can't be a personal QuickBooks account. It has to be like the small business version, and then you can actually upload the P&L categories. I can't think of what those are called right now, but anyways, with the numbers and the categories and everything, so that you can do something like this. So here is a old P&L with the details. So as you'll notice under income, I have residential income, and then they break it down between listing and sales, right? Listings and buyers, it gets broken down inside the MREA for residential income. Cost of goods sold, right? That would be those cost of sales, outside referral fees, commissions paid to the office, royalties paid, anything that gets paid, a transaction fee, anything that only happens once there is a closing gets put in here, and it's going to be broken out into buyer and seller. And then that gives me that gross profit number that we talked about, right? And this is the one that's broken out by month. And this has all the detail on it. I rarely look at all the detail, just for the record. In the expenses, right? Professional services, transaction coordination, showing allowance, right? If I've got showing assistants in play, and that transaction coordination could be moved up into a cost of sale. It just depends how you want it done. Contract labor, virtual assistant, that falls under compensation. Contract labor here, accounting and tax prep, right? Advertising, print, postage, and mail all falls underneath those. Direct or print mail, internet lead generation. Oh, that was for a total of print and direct mail. Hold on, we got contract labor and then print and direct mail, which is all of these items here. Your accounting, lead gen, general prospecting, advertising, print, direct, and postage and delivery falls under that. And I'll show you how this all plays out here in a second. We have our promotional and entertainment, which would be like promotional entertainment meals or internet lead gen. We have general prospecting and marketing, listing management, staging, signage, repairs, and maintenance, right, for listings. So I have a listing management category. I have a lead gen category. Lead gen encompasses all of the 6,200. So this is all from basically here. These 6,200 line items, lead gen down, fall underneath this total lead gen category. And then I have occupancy, which is the occupancy, rent, and utilities. And then I have communication and technology, which was like a CRM or back office systems. fall underneath there. And then the education and coaching, books, audio, visual subscription. So like your Audible subscription falls underneath education and coaching. Coaching and consulting, education and coaching, all underneath there. Automobile, here we have gas, parking tolls, ride share, right? And then we have supplies and office expenses, insurance, and equipment and furnishings. My E&O falls underneath your insurance. Also, if you had self-employed health insurance, that could fall underneath your insurance as well. That gives you your net operating income. And then I had other income that fell underneath there, it's considered what's called below the line. So, right. So I have my regular residential income, and then anything else that you have income coming in would fall underneath. So like if you were an Anastasia who occasionally shows properties for us, she would log her other income in here that she gets paid for showing properties as showing assistant, but it wouldn't fall underneath our regular categories because that would just be our residential sales income. So any referral fees goes up there, but any showing fees would go down below. It's considered below the line. Also your travel expenses, right? You go to Summit, you pay for airlines and food and hotels and all that falls underneath here as well for other expenses. And then we take the net other income, and that gives us our net income dollars per month so that we know exactly where we're at on a monthly basis. Okay. This is normally what I look at. It's just kind of more of like a summary. Actually, this one's more of a detail. That's by month. So I've got a month by month, and my accountant just does it in QuickBooks, just so you guys know she uses QuickBooks for this. So you can get all of these reports from QuickBooks. Here is the really in-depth detail of each one. It's got the line by line item of what it was, what the listing was, what the property, who it got paid to. And then this one here is the really cool one because this has the profit and loss statement with the percent of income, right? So if I was like, hey, remember I talked about that percent of income that it should match over here on the MREA? So if we look at that, I have my income minus my cost of sales gives me my gross profit number, which my gross profit number is at 81%. So my gross profit number should have been closer to 87%, except for I wasn't falling in this bracket. I'm actually in the next bracket. So my gross profit should have been closer to 74. So I'm right in line, actually ahead of where it should be, right? So we're just going to hold ourselves accountable to what it should be. So as we look at this and we get professional services, contract labor, let's look here, print direct, promotional, general prospecting and marketing. General prospecting and marketing should fall somewhere between 7.1 and 7.8 for me. And I fall at 2.45%. So well underneath the allotted money. In fact, that would almost be a red flag to tell me that I shall probably be spending more money on general prospecting and marketing, that I'm probably not utilizing that budget well enough. Okay. If we look at listing management, that that was good at 3.3%. I should be somewhere between 3.1 and 3.4%. So right on in there inside of that listing management budget, right? So you can go down each month and look at if we're plugging everything in appropriately and categorizing it correctly, we can make sure we're on par with where we should be with regards to our budget. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes. And yes? Amy, I was going to ask you really quick. Is this a good thing to do your taxes too, right?
Yes. So when I go to do my taxes, I can just take the year-end summary of this and hand it to my tax professional. And that takes care of my business expenses for the year, assuming that you've got everything plugged into here appropriately. Absolutely.
That is awesome. Yeah, because I've been looking for something, just easy to do my taxes. And this is amazing.
Right? Great. Super simple. It's just QuickBooks. It's not very expensive. I pay somebody to do it for me because this is not in my wheelhouse. And when I was supposed to be doing it would happen once every 4 months.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. If you're going to pay somebody to do your taxes for you or somebody do your monthly accounting, I recommend that you find somebody that's Number one, willing to use the MREA chart of accounts so that it lines up and you can double check all these percentages. And number two, somebody has experience working with real estate agents. We're a little different than the general population or your normal business owner. So make sure you have somebody that specializes in that and can show you those ins and outs of your finances for real estate agents. Okay. So business owner, make sure you're tracking your expenses, use separate accounts for tracking everything. Make sure, if you're going to use Venmo for business, that you have that business account plugged into your Venmo account so that you can utilize it for those business expenses. It makes it super easy to keep track of everything. Track your mileage or track your auto expenses, whichever you opt to choose to do. I'm sure I think there's anything else. Set aside money for taxes. Please, please, please set aside money for taxes. Any other questions with regards to your agent financials and setting yourself up like a business?
Amy, in the yes. You were talking about I was driving. You were talking about how you should have your accounts, right? Like separate. Yes. But yes. So do you suggest, like, for those of us who are newer, who don't have like the money there already, kind of, I guess, right? Because I kind of intermingled all of mine already. So what's that?
I said fail. And I said, just kidding.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So like, I don't like to use credit cards, but I'm just trying to think, like, using a credit card until you can get that first, seller buyer in to get the commission to kind of divvy that out, or to take from your own savings. And then, is that what you were saying? Like, take from your own savings and put it into that business account, like dumping money in there. And then that would be considered a loss, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, until you get it going, right?
Yeah. So I do recommend, you'll never hear me recommend using a credit card. I will never recommend that. I don't think it's a good idea necessarily, especially when you don't have money coming in. You should utilize the funds that you have available, which is why most of my trainings, you'll notice I'm so heavy on use the free version, use the free version, use the free version, right? Number one, I don't want you guys to go in debt to become realtors. Number two, I'm cheap. Okay. So I like the free things. And so, yeah, Heather, if I were you, what I would recommend doing is, or whoever, getting started new, is that you take your account that you're going to use for your business checking, business savings, your tax account, and that you pre-fund that business account with a set of funds so that it's trackable, that, hey, I moved $5,000 in from my personal savings for business expenses, so that you've got a track record of those transfers, instead of just putting it on a credit card and hoping that you're going to get paid off in time, or then paying interest on it because you didn't get it paid off on time.
Right.
So I would recommend utilizing savings whenever possible. And I had another thought process while I was saying that, but I don't know what it was. So moving on. So yeah, pre-fund. And then, the other thing that I'll say too is that you should talk with a financial planner and figure out, and maybe even your tax professional, and figure out what the best structure for you is as a real estate agent and a real estate business. Like, whether you should, open up a corporation or a LLC, or stay a sole proprietorship. Talk with somebody about that and kind of set forward a plan so that you're not doing what I'm doing, like backpedaling and trying to clean it all up on the back end. Don't be like Amy. Leticia, did you have a question? Uh-oh, you're all choppy again.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I said no. I don't have a question. It was about the taxes, but you already answered it.
Good. All right. So we're going to take it now and move into our time blocking segment of today's class. Look at that. I'm right on track. It's 11:31. You're welcome. So agent financials, super important. And so is time blocking, right? Two of the fundamental things that you need to set up from the beginning. I'm trying to figure out how to get my cursor back so I can close these windows out. So I have a window for this. we're going to watch a little video and then we'll dive into this and talk about your time blocking. Hopefully, if you can't hear what's being said, somebody put a comment in the comment section. I'm hitting
demonstration from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People will change how you prioritize. If you lack focus and want to do more important things in your day, you have to check out this life-changing video.
Okay, so if you can't see the bottom of the screen, I'll narrate for you. The sand represents all those phone calls, emails, the constant pings from our social media apps, right? All the little things in your day. The next box is going to be the pebbles, which represent tasks which have a slight but manageable consequences if we don't do them, right? Things that need to get done, but they're not going to drive our business forward. And then the big rocks represent those things that are going to move our business forward, those things that have serious consequences that we need to take care of. If we don't take care of them, and if you'll notice, he still has rocks left behind. So now we're going to look at it from a different angle. We're going to put in all those important things first, all those big rocks, those things that are going to drive our business forward, things that have huge consequences if we don't get to them, the non-negotiables in our business. Okay, notice all of our important things now fit into the time that we have allotted for our day inside that vase. We even have room left over now. Like that. Now we're going to take those pebbles, the urgent things, and we're going to dump those in. Same amount of pebbles as before. And now we're going to take all of those little things as well. So making sure we check our emails, our phone, responding to social media messages, commenting. Check that out. It all fits now with time left over. Super amazing example of the way that we should time block our days. Go. All right. Has everybody seen that example before, or is that the first time?
First time.
First time for Leticia. Heather, what did you say?
I've seen it before.
Heather's seen it before. She's been stuck with me for a while.
It's convicting.
Right? It's convicting. Leticia, what was your takeaway from that? Any thoughts, ahas?
I think, yeah, it's true. I mean, we always do things that we shouldn't be doing, and we don't prioritize. So that's what we need to do.
Absolutely. So the best way to prioritize and stay focused on the things that we need to do is by time blocking. And you'll always hear me say, I don't care if you use a paper calendar. I don't care if you use a digital calendar. It makes no difference to me. I actually used a paper calendar until probably about 3 years ago when I switched over to digital. I liked the paper calendar. I liked being able to open it up and see it in front of me and physically be able to like track my day. I did start having problems as I got busier with being able to have it with me all the time to book appointments and stuff. But never fear when somebody asks you, hey, can I, get a piece of your time at this time? It's okay to say, I've got to check my calendar and get back to you. Okay. It's okay to do that instead of just saying yes, because we want to be respectful of our time. So when we go to time block on our calendar, the number one most important thing is that not every second of every day has to be blocked out. Okay. I want you guys to remember that and hear that. Not every second of every day has to be blocked out. We just want to block the times and set aside important things. There will be gaps, things will run over. We'll forget to put something in our day. It's okay. That's why we don't want to block every second of the day. When we go to time block, I personally like to use colors and make things color coded. This is my calendar here. It's color coded. I know exactly what task and what it's related to just by glancing at my calendar. Okay. If you're like, Amy, how do I make it color coded? Well, in your Google Calendar, you can go into settings. So I just have a Google Calendar pulled up. I just go into settings, come down here into add calendar, and we're just going to hit create new calendar. And you might call this something like lead gen. And then there's a description. You can choose your time zone. You hit create calendar. Okay, let's pick another one. We're going to call this family. No, we're going to call this personal time. And hit create. And then maybe we're going to call one client appointments. And hit create. And then maybe we want admin activities. And hit create. Okay. Once you've created your calendars, now you can come over here to your settings for your calendars. And these are kind of like, they've defaulted to like fall colors. If we click on this calendar, let's see, it should let us do it here. Okay, may I have to go back? Okay, let's go. I think I have to go out of settings to now change it. These calendars magically show up here on my calendars list, right? So I just went into settings, created the calendars, came back out of settings to the calendar. Here they are. And it shows with a little check mark what's going to show up on my calendar. Now, if I'm like, I don't like those colors, they're ugly, I can click on the three little dots and look, it gives me a whole selection of colors. So maybe my admin activities, I'm going to name orange. And maybe client appointments, I like those because they're magical and I want them a pretty eucalyptus color. And maybe my lead gen, because that's my money-making activity, it's going to be green. I got basil green, pistachio green. And then maybe my personal time, I kind of like that one gray, but we're going to make it a lighter gray, right? So you can color code your calendars. And then when you go to add something to your calendar, like Monday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., I'm going to do lead gen. We just put that on there. We go lead. I can't spell. It's all right, though. Whoa, we're really in trouble today, right? Then you can come down here and see where it says Amy. We can click on this and we can select, we should be able to select the count. Here we go. I was like, somewhere there's a calendar, right? I can come down and select the lead gen and then hit save. And it automatically color codes that for me. Okay. Super cool way to color code your calendar. Now, when we go to add things on our calendar, we want to start with those non-negotiable items. Okay. What is it on your calendar that you have to attend? Is there an office meeting? Do you have to attend the Rev Up trainings every Tuesday and Wednesday at 11 o'clock? Put those on your calendar first, right? So that we know what those non-negotiables are. And when we have obligations that we have to be at that we can't move because we're not in charge of them, right? So maybe on Tuesday from 11 to 12, we could Rev Up. And then I'm going to change the calendar. I'm going to make that a admin activity. And I think I put 12:15. I probably put 12:15 because I knew that the person that teaches Rev Up always goes over. I can also go ahead and I can hit does not repeat. I can hit custom repeat. And I can say, hey, this repeats every Tuesday and Wednesday. And hit done. And then I hit save. And now magically Rev Up every Tuesday and Wednesday shows up on my calendar. Not just this week, but if I scroll to the next week, it's there as well, right? Be careful with those repeating obligations on your calendar, or repeating things. Like if I'm like lead gen every day, then eventually I'm going to start ignoring it because I'm going to realize that I've got other things overlapping. I didn't pay close attention. So just be careful with what you set up as a repeating event. So after you put those non-negotiables on your calendar, things that you don't have control over that you should attend or be at, they could be family items, they could be work items, they could be personal items. Once we get those on our calendar, then we're going to put in our family or personal time and our time off. What does our work day look like? What days are we going to take off? And if you're like, Amy, I'm a realtor, I work 24/7. Don't do that. Okay. Take days off. If you're going to host open houses on both Saturdays and Sundays, take Monday off or take Thursday off, right? Take at least a bare minimum of 1 day off per week. And I'm going to say you should take the equivalent of 2 days off per week. Although it may not look like 2 full days, it may be a full day here, take 1 full day off, please, and then a half day here, a half day there, right? So you can decide what that looks like. Block your time off. When I was getting started in real estate, my kids were like little. They were little. They were like 18 and 20 now. They were like 5 and 3 or something like that. So they went to preschool. And I picked them up every day at preschool. So every day at like 3 o'clock, I don't think that's when I picked them up. It was probably closer to 1, but let's say it was 3 o'clock. Because I remember most vividly doing this on when they got a little older, when they were in school. Hold on. There we go. All right. We're going to say kid time. And I'm going to categorize it over here as personal time. And I'm going to hit save. Oh, and then I might be like, hey, this is something that gets done every single day. Where's my repeat? All right, we'll come back to that. More options. There we go. More options. And we're going to hit repeat daily. Oops, let's go custom. Repeats every day, repeats every week on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Actually, because I'm in Idaho now, but we don't have school on Fridays, so it'd just be Monday through Thursday. I don't know. Be jealous. We have 3-day weekends every weekend. Okay, so maybe that's your kid time, right? Or maybe your kid time extends to, maybe you're like, man, I'm mom, and so until 7 o'clock, that's my family time, right? So maybe you extend that down to there. We're going to hit all events and hit okay, right? Maybe that's your like, hey, I'm focused on my kids, on homework, on after school activities, whatever that is, it's totally fine to do that. Or maybe you're like, man, every morning at 7 a.m., it's really important for me to go to the gym, right? So maybe you're going to put your personal gym time on there, gym, save, right? And maybe that's your morning activity. So it's okay to put personal time and a day off. Okay. So first we're going to put those non-negotiables so that we know that they don't interfere with our personal time and our non-negotiable and our days off. Then we're going to put in our personal and family and time off. Okay. Family comes before business. It doesn't matter how much money, your personal time comes before business. It doesn't matter how much money you make. If you're running yourself ragged and you die of a heart attack in 2 years because you never took any time for yourself. So please take time for yourself and time for those that your friends and family. Okay. After you get those on your calendar, then we're going to time block our lead generation time blocks. What time is best for the lead generation time blocks? It doesn't matter. The time that you're going to do it. Okay. If you're like, man, Amy, but I knock doors for my farm. I don't care. Go knock doors at 9 a.m. It really doesn't make a difference because sometimes if you push our lead gen activity until 2 o'clock in the afternoon thinking, oh, I'll get around to it later. There's all those little things. You remember that sand, those little pebbles and those sands, all those start to pile up and then we never get around to it. So I usually recommend putting that lead gen in the morning. You can do it however you want to. And just make sure you have it on there. And then also put some thought into it. How many hours of lead gen are you going to block in your week? What are you going to do during those time periods? Do you have your business plan put together? Are we doing open houses? And part of that is door knocking the neighborhood around our open houses every Thursday afternoon or every Thursday morning, right? What are we doing? How are we connecting with people? Do we have a farm? How often are we going to our farm and visiting? How often are we knocking those doors? Are we making phone calls? Are we calling our database and asking for referrals? How much time are we giving to that on a daily basis? Okay. In addition to our lead gen, the next thing that you want to do is we want to block in follow-up time, right? Part of it's going to be lead generating activities. We're not calling people we talked to yesterday. We're calling people that we haven't talked to ask them for referrals. We're knocking on people's doors to say, hey, we're in real estate. Do you know anybody looking to buy, sell, or invest? Hey, I've got an open house this weekend in the house down the street. Who do you know that needs to move to the neighborhood? Who do you want your neighbors to be, right? Lead gen activities, conversations with people. Okay. In addition, we should block some follow-up. So, you want to block your follow-up time. We're going to call that follow up, right? Who did we talk to yesterday that we said we'd be in contact with? Who did we set task reminders for that we needed to touch base with again, right? I'm still going to mark this. You can either mark this as an admin activity, or you could still mark it as part of your lead gen time, because it ultimately is leading to transactions, but it's different from our sacred lead gen time. Okay. That lead gen time, nothing gets in the way of making new contacts. Okay. So non-negotiables, personal, family, and time off. Second, lead generation, and then lead follow-up. And then we're going to block some appointment time slots. Okay, we're going to pre-block some appointment time slots. That's why when we're on lead gen and somebody's like, oh man, yeah, I was thinking about selling my house. You'd be like, great, let me come do a walkthrough. Would 9 o'clock or would 1 o'clock on Wednesday work, or would 3 o'clock on Friday work, right? So we can pre-plug in some appointment time slots into your calendar. We're going to call it blank appointment. I probably should have made another calendar, and I should have called it I do have one, client appointments. Look at that, client appointments. I'm so efficient, I even forget, right? And you're gonna block those times in there. Now, keep in mind that if you've got active buyers, looking at homes, I can't talk and type at the same time. I have enough trouble spelling without having to do it while I'm trying to talk. Right? So if we have those blank time slots on there, it makes it super easy. If we're working with buyers, active buyers, we've already sat down with them for their buyer consultation. They've signed that buyer representation and broker compensation agreement, the BRBC. We have active, they're pre-approved. They've earned time on our calendar. So we should know what our buyers' schedules look like. Okay. In this market, it's not so much oh my gosh, there's a property on the market, we must jump, right? We can pre-plan it. So if I know, hey, my people are off on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'm going to host an open house on Saturday. So this is going to be part of my, I'm always, every Saturday, I find myself an open house from 1 to 3. I'm actually going to make it 12:30 to 3:30 to make sure I accommodate the cleanup and setup of that open house. We're going to call this lead gen save open house, right? And so, but I know that my buyers are off. I may know that, hey, they like to get out early in the morning and go see properties, or they've got kids' sports in the morning. So my best bet is to schedule them in the afternoon. I'm going to pre-block a couple hours for that specific client. And then it might be like petard showings, so that when they send me a listing on Wednesday that they want to go see, I can automatically be like, yeah, absolutely. I know Saturdays are best for you. How about we plan to go see that on Saturday at 4 o'clock? And they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, that works perfectly. How did you remember my schedule? Right? So, right, we can pre-plan those appointments so that we know exactly. And then to help our case, when they email us something, they're like, hey, I want to see this house, we can just open up that showing appointment. We can go in here to description and we can add the property address. So as they're texting us and sending us these random emails and text messages with these houses they want to see, we can go in there and plug them in to that showing appointment to make it super easy for us to see. If we are on the phone and we schedule that appointment on Wednesday, makes it super easy. Instead of blank appointment, now we can come in here and rename it with Heather showing. You got an extra E, showing appointment, and we can plug in the address there as well, right? We can plug in an address and then hit save. So now it goes from a blank appointment to exactly who it is that we're meeting. If our goal with lead gen is to set 2 listing appointments a week and we have them pre-set up on our calendar and we get those 2 appointments set in, do we have to keep lead generating if we don't want to, if we've met our goal? No, right? You can be done. You could go back into your calendar and delete the rest of the lead gen for the week, and you can replace it with things that you want that also need to get done, or with free time, right? If it were me, I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna jam pack my Monday with lead gen so that I can get my appointment set, so that on Tuesday morning, instead of lead gen, I could be out with my horses, right? That's my reward. If I'm diligent and doing what I was supposed to be doing earlier in the week, then it frees up more time for what I want to be doing in the latter part of the week. Okay, give yourself permission to do that. Okay, so we're going to put those appointment time slots on there. And then what else we need on our calendar is like admin type activities, right? Every day at the end of the day, you should plug in some time where you're reviewing your calendar for the next day. Every day at the beginning of the week, Sunday, Monday, first thing Monday morning, you're reviewing your calendar for the whole week, not just the next day. Or maybe it's Friday afternoon, whatever the end of your work week is, you schedule some time to review that next week. We want to set time for checking emails. We want to set time for returning phone calls. Our admin tasks, right? We need to be in our business, continuing to do business building tasks, creating those systems and processes, cleaning up our database, listing management, sending out those postcards, creating marketing materials, social media management, doing all those postings on social media, responding to people's comments, sharing posts, adding people to our social media, right? So we need that time booked in. So you can either do it as a whole block, right? We could say this is going to be our admin time. And then we have that special little calendar color for admin activities, right? Or we could block it out individually. You might be like, man, on my voicemail message that I created, I said I was going to check my messages at 8, 12, and 5. So now you need to put that on your calendar so you get a reminder at 8, 12, and 5 to get on there and check your phone messages and return phone calls. Okay? It probably doesn't take longer than like 15, maybe 20 minutes. Maybe you block 30 minutes just to be safe. Totally okay. You need to log time to go in there and check your email. That way you don't feel like every time your phone dings, you got to look at it. You know that, hey, every 2 hours, I have a 15-minute time slot to check my emails and respond to emails, right? Maybe we set twice a day, we check our social media. We give ourselves 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon sometime. If this is me, and let's say my day is going to start at 9 o'clock because I'm going to go to the gym and then I'm going to take a shower and get dressed and get myself ready. So my day starts at 9. I've got this kid block in the middle of my day. I may have more time down here in the evening that I'm going to work once my kids have gone to bed, once they don't need me as much anymore. But don't forget that you might have a spouse or a significant other or somebody else, and you do need time for them as well. So just make sure that you balance that appropriately. But you've got to decide how you're going to structure your day. Okay. So again, non-negotiables first. Then we're going to put a personal, family, and time off, right? You could go in there today and you could pre-plan your vacations for the whole year on your calendar right now, so that you make sure you can leave that time blocked and clear so that you don't accidentally book things on top of it. Then we're going to put in our money-making activities, which is our lead generation and our follow-up activities. Then we're going to pre-plan those appointment time slots. And then we're going to plug in our admin activities, the reviewing of our calendars, the reviewing of our days, the checking emails, returning phone calls, creating systems and processes for our business, those business building tasks, listing management, social media, those type of tasks. What questions do you have surrounding time blocking?
Hi, Amy. I have a question.
Yes.
My biggest challenge is sticking to like the block, see the block that you have the kid time. Like, I feel like I have clients that are constantly like, they want to see homes in the evening and stuff like that. So, I mean, do you feel like it's realistic to do that? I mean, is it, I don't know. I that's where I struggle, right?
Yes. So yes, I do feel like it's realistic. You can always decide that you want to negotiate on your kid time, or you could decide that you're going to enlist help in your business to show properties, right? So if somebody wants to see a property Monday through Thursday from 3 to 7, you can let your clients know that, hey, just so you know, if you want me available during these hours, I already have time. That's time that I spend with my kids, making sure their homework's done, their sports are done, whatever. We can still go see properties, but I'm going to have somebody show the properties to you, right? You can enlist the help of a showing assistant, give somebody some experience on showing properties and hire them to go open doors for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's definitely ways to do that. That'd be something you'd pay like per door to be able to do that, so that you protect your time and that you still get your clients into the doors they want to see.
Claudia, you can hit me up, and if I'm available, I'll go do it for you, honey.
Thank you.
It's a good way, especially Claudia, since you're a mentor and you have some mentees, like utilizing those mentees to go show properties, giving them experience is super beneficial to them. Yep, absolutely. So yeah, so you can leverage your time well and outsource some of those things so that you're protecting your time and that you're still meeting the needs of your clients. And part of that too, when it comes to clients, is setting those expectations from the beginning, right? Like, hey, buyer, we're sitting down to do our buyer consultation. We're going through all the information. I'm available at your beck and call, every day from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You call me, I'll call you back within 30 minutes. If it's after 5 p.m., if it's a non-emergency, you may not hear from me until the next day. Okay, that being said, buyer, my phone goes into do not disturb mode at a certain time. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my gosh, what about this? Or right, seller, what about this? And you can't go back to sleep, shoot me over a text message. It's not going to wake me up. And then when I'm back in the office in the morning, I'll be able to reply to you. That way you can get it off your head. You know it's on my plate and you can go back to sleep. And they're like, oh my gosh, really? Thank you. That's amazing, right? So give them permission to do that, but also give yourself permission that, hey, after 5 o'clock, if we don't already have an appointment set, you may not hear from me until the next day, unless it's an emergency. Right? And most people will respect you for that. And those people that don't respect you for that, you probably shouldn't be working with them anyways. Send them on their way. People that think you should be available 24/7 are silly. If their boss called them 24/7, they would cry and they'd quit.
It's so true. It is so true. I think that's what everybody was telling me when I was going to go into real estate. Like, you're never going to have a day off. And I was like, no, I'm going to have a day off. Like, even the other day, I saw a post of an agent. I don't know who she is, but she just started following me and she had a baby and she was like taking pictures of herself. She's like, I'm still working, making deals. And she literally had her newborn, like, nursing on her with her laptop in the hospital. And I'm like, that's sad. Like, that was sad to me. It was really sad. It was really sad because I'm like, no amount of money or anything. Like, people have to understand we have lives too. Like, yeah. Amy, I had a silly question maybe, but on your, I'm pointing like you see me pointing, calendar. On your calendar. I have mine color coded, but I don't have different calendars. What's the benefit of switching over to having the different you know what I mean? The different calendars.
Yeah. So like this appointment, when you create an appointment, let's say I create a new appointment here, I can go in there and create a new appointment and I can come in here and I can pick the color and I can change the color of that calendar, right? Without having to call it anything. The problem with that for me is that it's not clear to me what color is what at that point. Whereas if you create your individual calendars, then you know exactly what stands for what color. It just helps as from an organizational standpoint of remembering what purple was supposed to be.
This is a game changer because I live on my Google Calendar and I have different calendars on here, but like for school, for this and that, but not for myself. So this is huge. Thank you so much.
And you can add in, right? So if you have other calendars on here, like I could decide that, hey, right now I just wanted to focus on my admin activities or whatever. I could take something off and just by unclicking it and then clicking it back on and it magically appears. So if I had my personal calendar on here as well, like my family calendar, maybe, I've got teenagers and what they've got going on in their appointments, which really don't matter to me ultimately. Like I want to be available for them, but they're 18 and 20. I don't have to be at everything they do anymore. I could set up my week and then take those things off, or I could overlay them on top as I'm setting up my week to make sure that I don't overlap something that is important for me to be at. And then I can take it off my calendar so I don't have to look at it 24/7. right? So you have the ability to be able to do that with separate calendars you can add and take away.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because I have all my kids and stuff too. And I'm like, right as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, yeah. Because I'm like, sometimes I'm like, if I could just take that away for a second, like I could see what I'm really doing and not my husband's stuff and you know what I mean?
Okay. The other thing when it comes to your calendar as well, whether you're using a paper calendar or a digital calendar, is if something comes up and takes up your time. Okay. Number one, try to protect your time. Number two, set alerts and reminders so that they tell you when that time is coming up and when the next thing is starting. And then number two, if we have something that comes up, maybe this Heather showing appointment, she really was only available at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, and this house was a super hot house, and they were reviewing offers as received. And you're like, man, I need to move that calendar there. Totally okay, but we need to move whatever it was that we took over, right? So if we moved it, let's say I'm going to use this because you can't really move Rev Up, you just don't attend. But actually, that's a good example. Watch this. All right, so we're taking it. We move Heather to Wednesday at 11 o'clock. And you're like, darn it. Now I'm missing Rev Up. I'm going to miss all that information. Well, that's okay. We can take Rev Up and we can move it over here maybe Friday at 11. And we go this event only because it's a reoccurring event. So we're just moving that one. And then we can open it up and we can say, Rev Up, watch recording on time blocking, right? We can look up and see what the schedule was for today, just this event only. And now I've got a reminder to watch the recording on time blocking on Friday at 11 o'clock because I had to take it away on Wednesday. So we can't just like override things and take away our lead gen and our follow-up and our admin time. We have to replace it someplace else. We need to move it and find another hole in our calendar to make it work. Okay. If we get too busy working in our business, we're too busy showing houses and we're too busy plugging away and writing offers and doing all those things. Those are super important. However, in 30 days time frame, we aren't going to have any more business. That lead gen activity, that's why we put it on first after our personal time and our time off. We put that lead gen on there because our lead gen is what's going to create consistency in our business and create business for ourselves. So that is so super important to keep on our calendar. And it's so easy to let those little pebbles in the sand get in the way and to start getting distracted with the emails and the text messages and what's going on with our transaction and all these other things and forget about that. And then we realize we finished our transactions that we had in process. We're like, man, now I don't have anything. Now you got to start all over with that lead gen and it's another 60 to 90 days before it produces results. So stay consistent in those things. That's why if we erase, we must replace. I can't speak now, right? So if you erase, you must replace. So put it someplace else. Okay. Any other questions with regards to agent financials or time blocking? Just so you guys know, on my paper calendar, because I said I used a paper calendar up until about 3 years ago, I had erasable colored pencils. That's how I color coded it. And I always did it in pencil so that I could move things around if I needed to. Actually, for a while, I got those stickies, like the Post-it notes that were fully sticky. And I cut them out into like hour time blocks and I put those on my calendar because then I could pull them off and re-stick them. But that only works a certain number of times and they stop sticking. So I went to colored pencils. Okay. Any other questions? Any ahas?
This was awesome, Amy. Thank you.
Good. All right, fabulous. Remember, no class tomorrow. You guys have the team huddle. Was somebody else going to say something?
Yes, another quick question. So if we wanted, if we miss one of your classes, where do we find them? Or Carly posting them?
Carly, I think, posts them someplace inside of our Facebook group. But Abby also, we always post them onto my YouTube channel. So if you go find my YouTube channel, then and there's a tracker. So if you find my YouTube channel and hit subscribe, then it'll keep you alert anytime we add a video to that YouTube channel. Number one, and there's a whole library of videos on there. Number two, Abby just posted a link to the YouTube channel. It's like she's got all these saved on her computer or something. She's magical. She also sent you a link in the chat box for the tracker. So there's a spreadsheet that has all the classes listed. And then as we do that and record them, we post the link in that tracker. So that would be a way to find those as well. And then there's also a link up there that she posted for your attendance to make sure you log your attendance for today. And because Abby is amazing, and I'm not, it used to take me like weeks to get the recordings posted. So I have Abby. She deals with them right away, and they're usually posted within a day or 2 days max. They're on there ready to go. So good lead time on that. And on Thursday, we're covering the Real Scout for our tech training. So we're talking about Real Scout, setting people up for property searches and using those market updates, alerts. So cool things there. Any other questions? All right, fabulous. Have a great day, and I will see you all on Thursday at 4 o'clock.
Thank you.